Oh, well, hello, my lovely friends, and welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, wonderful to have you. We are continuing on some ideas that I'm building on the last few weeks, and what I want to talk to you about today is this idea of honoring endings and how things ending is not a failure. And I think we really need to change the way we talk about this with ourselves and the way we talk about this in our communities, because I think this is something that is doing such a big disservice to us. We so often feel like if a relationship doesn't work out, then the relationship failed. If a job doesn't work out for us, then that job failed. We failed at that job. And I think that this just isn't true, and that we are not failures. And there's a couple of different reasons for that I want to get into today.
Hi, welcome to Simply Intentional. My name is Katie. I'm on a journey to live my most fulfilling life and hopefully inspire others to do the same. Come along as I figure out my 30s one day at a time, and don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on any of my adventures.
As we move through our life, we're going to grow and change. We're hopefully going to grow and change. That's what I want from my life, and I think if you're here watching this content, then that's what you want from your life too. And a part of this is you will find things that you thought you wanted. You will find that you no longer want them. You will find things that were so wonderful and perfect and meaningful stop being that for you because who you are has changed, what you want out of life has changed, and these things aren't failures. This is something that I have struggled with a lot, especially in my late 20s. I went through a long period I went to university and I thought there was a job that I wanted to do. And I was so set on this path for years and years and years. And I did my undergrad, I was getting ready to do my master's, and then a bunch of things happened in my life that really sort of made me reevaluate what I was doing and what I wanted. And I realized I didn't want to do that anymore. And there was a lot of reasons why I didn't want to do it. But coming to that realization was really scary, and then actually making the decision not to do it probably took me about a year. And for years afterwards, literally like 5 years afterwards, I felt like a failure. I felt like I had let myself down, that I had let my family down, and that I had ruined my life. And it took me a really long time to come to terms with that. And I think that's a big part of it, is we have this idea that there's one path set out for us, and we weirdly try and make like 18-year-olds decide that, and that what you want at 18 you're going to go to school for, and you're going to go to university, and you're going to meet a partner, and you're going to do all these things. And it's okay to get to 25 or 30 or 40 years old and realize that those things are not for you anymore. And I think that that can be a really brave thing to do. And I think that we can totally feel like we've ruined our lives. And we haven't. You can't ruin your life if you're acting with the best intentions towards yourself and you're truly taking the time to understand who you are and what you want. And that's such an important part of intentional living that I think gets left out of the conversation a lot of the time, is like, yeah, you're gonna spend a lot of time figuring out what you want and who you wanna be. But part of that is figuring out what you don't want and who you don't wanna be and the life you don't want, because you are going to have to decide what matters to you. You are going to decide the path that you wanna go down. And that's going to change. The person that I was at 25 is not the person I was at 30, and the person I was at 30 is not the person I am now, looking at turning 35 in 4 months, which is wild, by the way. And I think because we have these ideas of what success looks like, right? We have these ideas that by a certain age, we're going to have certain things, we're going to be in a certain place in our lives, and especially for people my age, I think that this is a new path, right? I think the world is changing a lot, and for the first time, people are carving their own path. And especially for my peers, like single women in their 30s without kids, there hasn't been a great roadmap laid out for us. Of course, there were women in previous generations doing this, but it's different now that we can choose this more readily, that we can decide what our lives are going to look like with more intention. And that becomes a very scary process when it isn't the idea of what life is supposed to look like. And I know I talk about that all the time, and I know I say that I talk about it all the time, but that is such a key part of becoming intentional with your choices and making sure that you are on a path that best serves you, so that you can better show up for the people around you and that you can actually enjoy your life, because like that's the whole point. That's why we're here. You're supposed to be alive and enjoying things. And that's why honoring endings can be so important, because if we can reframe this from being a failure, if we can recognize that just because something ended, just because we were in a relationship for 10 years and it didn't work out for a variety of reasons, that relationship didn't fail. If you open a business and you run it for a couple of years and it either doesn't work out for you, or you decide that that isn't what you want to be doing with your time, and you choose to move on from it, it didn't fail. You grew and you learned and you took away important life lessons that are now going to inform your next decision. And you may start another business, you may choose a new career path, you may take up a hobby. And it's hard to let go of things because we have invested time and money and resources and our emotions into these things. But I think it's very disingenuous to yourself and to the people around you to continue on with something that doesn't serve you, because if you're putting your time and energy into something that you know fundamentally isn't what you want to be doing anymore, it's also a disservice to the people that you're in relationships with, that you are working with, that you are trying to build a community with. We do need to be able to recognize that and take a step back. And I don't want to encourage you to just drop things at a moment's notice. It is very reflective. You do need to take the time to understand what that looks like for you, to really examine why you don't want to do something. Is it that you don't want to do it because you intrinsically know it doesn't align with your values anymore? Or is it maybe something that you don't want to do right now? Because that's also a part of it. You have seasons where something is extremely important to you, and then due to personal reasons or whatever, you can find that it isn't what you need right now. And it's okay to put things down and pick things up again if you're doing it with honesty and integrity. And I mean, that's more for some hobbies and things like that, obviously not with the relationships in your life. But we need to change the conversation around what success looks like, and to honor things ending in our lives in a meaningful way. And by honoring the endings and by truly reflecting on what you want and where you want to be, we can model for other people what honoring an ending looks like and what acting with integrity looks like. Because, you know, in my last video I talked about discipline and becoming the kind of person you can count on. And once you are the kind of person you can count on and you have built that trust with yourself, then understanding that things are going to end and how you're going to handle that becomes a key part of that. Just because you choose to end something, because you choose to leave a career path, because you drastically overhaul your life and you move across the country to live in a van and do whatever it is that you want to do, you're still going to grieve and you're still going to mourn the life that you had. And I think there's a huge focus on, once we do make the decision to move on from something, that it's just gonna be happy and it's just gonna be great. Everything's great now because I made the decision to change my life. And it can feel great. It can feel great to change your career path. It can feel great to let go of something that doesn't serve you. So when I decided that I no longer wanted to go and do my master's in that chosen field, it did feel good. It felt quite relieving because, in all honesty, once I was truly reflective on that process and I sat with it for a bit, I understood that I had been very unhappy in the last year or so of doing that, and that I had sort of forced myself down that path, and that made me unhappy, and that it was stressful, I was suffering for it, and the people around me suffered for it because I wasn't being honest with myself. And I felt obligated to finish it because I had started it and because I had invested time and money into it. Other people had invested time and money into it. And so I felt like I had to finish it. And letting go of it and then being able to honestly discuss why I chose that and what that looked like for me did include mourning it. It included having to let go of the idea of what I thought my life was going to look like. I thought I was going to go down this path and my whole life was planned out. And then suddenly I was standing on the edge of a cliff with no idea what was going on, and I jumped off of it. And it was terrifying. It was scary. There was a lot of emotions I had to deal with, and I did grieve it. And to this day, you sort of wonder, right? Like, what if I had not figured that out? Or what if I hadn't decided that it wasn't for me? Like, what would my life look like now? And we're always going to wonder that with every choice that we make. But it's so important to realize what's not serving you. Every experience in your life is going to teach you something, be it good or bad. There's lessons in everything. And the more we're able to understand that, and the more that we're able to recognize that and truly digest those lessons and go through that process, the better off I think we're going to be as a whole. And I think with YouTube and social media and all of that, I think there's a good platform for this, because before, people were just sort of marching along and doing what they thought they ought to be doing, and there wasn't really this concept that you could do something else. And now we have a wonderful platform for people like me and you to sit down and discuss these ideas, and I think that's great, because I think one of the more wonderful things about the way that society is going is that people are realizing that there's so much that we can do, and that time is precious. And if we're able to intuitively know who we are and what we want and what that looks like, and then have forums for this conversation with people we don't know, then we're able to build on that and reflect on that collectively. And I think that that's super important. And for me, once I started spending time with people that were living what one might consider like a non-traditional life, and I realized that there was more options out there, the more I started to think about it, and the more I went down the path that I'm currently on. And it was other YouTubers that inspired me to start this channel. Back in 2001, when I first started this channel, I quit my job. I had a job that I absolutely hated. And it was such a privilege to be able to leave that. And I understand that, but it is something that I planned for and I saved for. And I was moving out of the city anyways, so I knew like there was a finite time I was gonna stay in that job. And after everything that happened in 2020, because like that was a doozy, I knew it wasn't for me. And I knew that I had a rare opportunity in my life to take a break. And we don't get that really in our adult lives. Like when we're kids, we take the summers off and we, you know, get to breathe and reflect and do all these things and play outside and grow as people, which is really important when you're a child, but is also really important as adults. And so I took that opportunity to take that ending. I left something that wasn't serving me, and I was able to spend a summer making YouTube videos and doing the stuff that I loved. I hiked, I did crafts, I did creative things, I traveled, I spent time with my family and friends, and it was an absolutely beautiful time in my life. And I understand that not everyone can leave a job they hate right away and everything like that, but I think if we can reframe the idea that something ending is a failure, and that we are not failures if a job doesn't work out or if we decide to move on from something in our lives, then we have a unique opportunity to find the things that do serve us. And we need to learn to let things go with integrity, with grace, and with compassion. And we need to create spaces where people can do that. And so I would ask you, what areas of your life do you feel maybe don't serve you anymore? And maybe reflect on times in your life where things did end and how that felt for you, and what sort of narratives were said to you about it, or what kind of narratives did you tell yourself? Because I think too, part of it is so often our own narrative is so harsh when something doesn't work out, but most of your family and friends are going to be really supportive. Like I had people that thought me quitting my job with no other job lined up was insane. Like they were so against it. And the thing I had to realize is it's not their life. They're not the one paying my bills. And quite frankly, at the end of the day, their opinions don't matter. If you are able to let go of something and you know it's not the right thing for you, and so you let it go, and you are able to understand why you made that decision, then the people that don't understand that decision don't matter. So often we continue with things that we don't enjoy or love or feel incredibly passionate about is because other people will tell us that we have to because you've invested time and money and all this stuff into it. We also only have a finite amount of time, and to continue to do things that we don't love, that we know intrinsically are bringing us down emotionally, physically, whatever it is, then you need to respect yourself and understand that you know what's right for you and let those voices go. Because a lot of the times it's your own voice that's the harshest one, right? And most people aren't thinking about you that much, and the people that have negative opinions about the way you're living your life and what you're doing, I mean, as long as you're not hurting other people, obviously, like, that's more about them than it is about you. When people have a harsh opinion of something that they're not directly involved in and they want to tell you their opinion on your life, that's their own stuff that they're dealing with, right? Unless someone directly asks my opinion, I don't tell people my thoughts on the way they're living their life because it's none of my business. If they ask me for my opinion, I will gladly give it to them, and I will be as kind and helpful as I can with it, even if I think what they're doing is insane. If they say, hey, I want to do this and I think it's crazy, I'll be like, that's an interesting choice. Why? You know? And that's what we need to do. All right, my lovely beans, that's what I have for you today. I probably will not have another video next week because I am going to be on vacation. I'm heading out to the East Coast where it is going to be freezing and covered in snow, and currently here in my lovely home on the West Coast it is 15 degrees and there are flowers blooming just beyond the view of this camera. So wish me luck. You will probably get some fun snowy vlog type action when I return. If you want to keep up to date on that lovely little adventure, come follow me on Instagram because I post there like literally 24/7 because I'm a social media addict. Yeah, come check out some of my other videos in my series on deconstructing internalized capitalism and living your best life and just trying to be a good human for yourself and the people around you because, like, we deserve it. Anyways, as always, I'm so thankful for you to be here. Please like the video if you liked it. Please subscribe if you want to see more, and I will catch you in the next one.